They don't regret losing you. Not yet. Right now, they only regret being caught. They regret the inconvenience, the drama, the momentary disruption to their own world. But the loss of you, the deep, cavernous, echoing loss of you, that hasn't hit them. It's a slow-acting poison, a debt that compounds in silence. They think they walked away clean, that they got the last word, that they are free. They have no idea that their sentence has already begun. What happens when the justice you stopped waiting for arrives? Not with a thunderclap, but with a quiet, creeping realization that dawns on them in the middle of the night. The realization that they made the single greatest mistake of their lives. What happens when they finally understand what they lost, and you're no longer there to care? You feel it in your chest, don't you? The silent, heavy weight of an injustice. Someone you trusted, someone you gave your energy to, simply walked away. They disrespected you, ghosted you, betrayed your faith, and left a void where a universe used to be. And in that deafening silence, your mind screams for fairness. It replays their actions, their words, their chilling indifference, and a raw, ancient part of you wants them to feel even a fraction of what you feel. You want a cosmic receipt delivered, irrefutable proof that their actions had consequences. You want the scales of justice to balance with a cathartic crash. You don't want to lift a finger. You don't want to stoop to their level. But God, you want the universe to make it right. But what if the scales are already in motion? What if the most profound justice is not an event you witness, but a silent internal process that has already begun inside of them? The Stoics knew this. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the slave-turned-teacher Epictetus, the statesman Seneca. They understood that the universe has its own unassailable logic. A logic that is colder, deeper, and more absolute than our fleeting desire for revenge. This isn't about wishing for lightning to strike. This is about understanding the cold, hard mechanics of character. It's about realizing that the verdict isn't coming. It's already been delivered, and your only task is to become still enough, quiet enough, and strong enough to see it for what it is. It's the worst feeling, isn't it? The maddening belief that they got away with it. You open your phone, a reflex you hate, and there they are, smiling, surrounded by friends. A picture of curated happiness, broadcasted for the world to see. They look unbothered, triumphant, thriving, while you are left to sweep up the shards of what they shattered. It feels like a fundamental flaw in the fabric of reality, a glitch in the moral code of the universe that allows the careless to dance while the caring bleed. Your mind tells you a story. They are happy and you are not. They won and you lost. Their life moved on while yours is paused on a frame of pain. This is the first and most potent lie that injustice tells us. But the Stoics saw past the surface. They looked at the architecture of the soul, not the decoration of the lifestyle. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, wrote to himself in his private journal, not of conquering his enemies, but of conquering his own mind. He said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This isn't a passive, gentle suggestion. It is a radical reclaiming of power. But his contemporary, Seneca, went even deeper. He stated a truth that cuts to the very bone of karmic justice. Vice is its own punishment. A person who is capable of profound betrayal, of casual cruelty, of ghosting the human soul as if they were turning off a light. That person is not at peace. They cannot be. Their actions are not a display of strength, but a symptom of a deeply disordered soul. Their choices are the tremors from a fault line of fear, insecurity, and a bottomless, desperate need for external validation. A person who is whole does not need to break others to feel big. A person who is at peace does not need to create chaos in the lives of others to feel alive. The metaphor for their life is not the open field of freedom they imagine it to be. It is a gilded cage. From the outside, it is magnificent. The bars are polished gold. The perch is velvet. The food and water dishes are filled with the praise of strangers and the distraction of new conquests. It looks like success. It looks like freedom. It looks enviable, but you have to understand what it's like inside that cage. The door is locked from the inside. They are trapped in there with the one person they can never ever escape, themselves. They are caged with their own untrustworthiness. They are caged with the memory of their own cowardice. They are caged with a character they know, in their quietest moments, is weak. Every new relationship they form is haunted by the ghost of what they did to you. Can they ever truly trust a new partner, a new friend? No, because they know the depths of their own capacity for betrayal. They will project their own flaws onto everyone they meet, forever suspicious, forever waiting for the other shoe to drop, because they were the one who dropped it before. Every success feels hollow. Why? Because it's built on a foundation of deceit. They climb a ladder, but the rungs are slick with their own lies. The applause they receive sounds like an echo in an empty chamber, because the one person they need to respect them, the person in the mirror, knows the truth. This is the real justice. It is not a lightning bolt from the sky. It is the slow, grinding, internal erosion of their own peace. It is the life sentence of having to be who they are every single day. When this truth lands, really lands in your soul, something incredible happens. The fire of your anger doesn't just burn out, it transforms. It alchemizes into a kind of cool, detached pity. You stop seeing them as a happy villain who needs to be punished, and you start seeing them as a prisoner of their own making. And then, the power move happens, almost without you noticing. You stop checking their social media, not as an act of self-discipline, but because you are genuinely no longer curious about the activities of a prisoner in their cell. You stop asking mutual friends about them. You stop wondering if they feel remorse. Their life, their cage, their internal turmoil. It ceases to be your concern. Your freedom comes from the profound realization that you were never the one who was truly trapped. You were the one who was set free. You were hurt, yes, but you get to heal. You get to rebuild. You get to create a life based on truth and integrity. The bars you thought were holding you back were just shadows. The cage was always theirs. There is an urge, an overwhelming, gut-wrenching, desperate urge to make them understand. It burns in your throat. It keeps you awake at 3 a.m., composing novels in your head. The perfect text message. The long, articulate email. The final, devastating conversation where you will lay out the evidence of their crime so clearly, so powerfully, that they will have no choice but to break down and admit what they did. You believe in that moment that your healing is on the other side of their confession. You believe that your value is a fragile thing that needs their validation to be made whole again. You think that if they could just see the full scope of your pain, they would finally feel the sting of remorse. So you type, you draft, you hover over the send button. You are about to hand them the last remaining piece of your power, gift wrapped in a plea for recognition. This is where the Stoics draw a line in the sand. This is where Epictetus, a man who had been a slave, who knew what it was to have everything taken from him, would hold up a hand and say, "Stop." He would tell you to look at your hand. In it, you hold your words, your emotions, your reaction. That is all you control. Everything else, their mind, their feelings, their perception, their capacity for empathy, is outside of your control. It belongs to them. And trying to control what belongs to another is the definition of insanity. Your words, your explanations, your pleas for understanding. They are a gift. And you are about to give this precious gift to someone who has already proven they don't know its worth. The true power move is not in the perfectly crafted message. It is in the dignified, unbreakable, resounding silence that follows their disrespect. You must understand, this silence is not empty. It is not a void. It is not a weakness. Your silence becomes the mirror. Think about it. When you were present, When you were explaining and reacting and fighting for your perspective, you were a buffer. You were a distraction. Your reactions, your anger, your tears, your pain became the focus. You gave them something to point at, something to blame. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. You're the one making this a big deal. Your noise allowed them to avoid the sound of their own actions. But when you retreat into a profound and total silence, all of the noise stops. All of the distractions are removed. You take yourself, your energy, and your reactions completely out of the equation. And what is left? Only them, alone. In a room with nothing but the echo of what they did. Your absence becomes a physical presence. The space you once filled with. Your warmth, your laughter, your energy, now gapes as a cold, empty void. They are forced to look at it. They are forced to feel it. The silence isn't passive, it's active. It presses in on them. In that mirror of your silence, they cannot see your anger anymore. They see only the reflection of their choice. They see their betrayal. They see their cowardice. They see the ugliness of their own behavior with no filter. There's no one to argue with. No one to blame. No one to distract them from the stark, brutal reality of who they chose to be. This is the moment where the seed of regret is planted. Not because you shamed them, but because you gave them the dignity of letting them shame themselves. The emotional payoff for you is immense. It is the reclamation of your sovereignty. You realize that your value was never up for debate. It was never in their hands. It is an absolute, self-evident truth that requires no external validation. It simply is. The power move is the unsent text, the deleted draft. They resisted the urge to check if they've watched your story. It's the conscious, deliberate decision to let their assumptions about you be their problem, not yours. Your silence becomes a boundary, a fortress wall so high and so thick that their chaos can no longer penetrate your peace. It is a quiet declaration that says, "My inner world is more important than your opinion of me. My peace is not for sale. And you no longer have access to me." This quiet boundary, this unbreakable calm, is more powerful than any angry word you could ever scream. What happens when they finally want to talk, to explain, to manage their own guilt? And they reach for the phone to call you, only to realize they no longer have that privilege? Now comes the most insidious part of the pain. The injustice of the lie. They did not just leave. They rewrote history on their way out. They crafted a narrative, a neat and tidy story where they are the victim, or at the very least, the reasonable one. And you are the villain. You are the unstable one, the demanding one, the one who is impossible to please. They tell this story to their friends, to your mutual acquaintances, maybe even to their new partner. And you feel it. You feel the whispers. You feel the shift in energy from people who once knew your heart. You are left feeling exposed, misunderstood, and utterly powerless, burning with a furious desire to grab a megaphone and scream the truth. From the rooftops, you fear that their lie will become the accepted reality, that their fiction will be etched into stone as fact. This is where you must place your trust, not in people, but in the nature of reality itself. The Stoics were not mystics, they were logicians. They believed the universe, the logos, was a rational, ordered, self-correcting system. And in a rational system, truth has a different weight than falsehood. Truth is dense, solid, and stable. A lie is light, hollow, and fragile. It requires constant energy to maintain. A life built on a foundation of lies is like a house of cards in a room with a steady breeze. You don't have to blow it down. The inherent instability of its own structure guarantees its collapse. The metaphor is a beautiful garment, woven with a single rotten thread. When they first create their false narrative, the garment looks flawless. It's impressive. The story is compelling, the details are plausible, the performance is convincing. They wear it with confidence. And people admire it. They believe it. But that single rotten thread, the lie at the core of the story, is always there. It might be small, but it is fundamentally weak. And truth, like friction, is relentless. Time passes, the garment is worn. Reality brushes up against it. They have to tell the story again, but the details change slightly. A new person enters their life and asks a question they aren't prepared for. The mask slips for a fraction of a second in a moment of stress, revealing the anxiety underneath. That rotten thread begins to fray, and as it frays, it weakens the threads around it. The lie about you was connected to a lie about their own integrity. That lie was connected to a lie about their intentions. The unraveling begins. It's not a sudden rip. It's a slow, inevitable process. The people around them, the smart ones, start to notice. They see the inconsistency. They see the pattern you saw. They see that the person who claims to value loyalty is disloyal. They see that the person who claims to hate drama is always at the center of it. You do not have to pull that thread. You do not have to expose them. You must understand this. Your intervention will only complicate things. It will make you look like the bitter ex, the one who can't let go. It will give them more material to weave into their faulty garment. Your job is to do nothing but step back and let the physics of truth do its work. The emotional payoff of this understanding is a deep, profound, calming patience. You let go of your role as the frantic defender of your own reputation. You stop being the lawyer in the courtroom of public opinion. You become a detached, serene observer of reality's inevitable course. You realize that the truth does not need your help to win. It just needs time. The ultimate power move is not to fight their lies, but to make them irrelevant. How? By living your own truth with such blinding, unwavering integrity that their story becomes absurd. While they are busy patching the ever-growing holes in their narrative, you are busy building a life of solid, undeniable virtue. While they are managing perceptions, you are cultivating character, your authentic success, your genuine peace, your steadfastness, your new and healthy relationships. Things do not argue with their lie. They simply obliterate it. Your life becomes the silent, unassailable refutation of their every word. They built a house of cards. You are building a fortress of stone. What do you think will be left standing when the wind blows? There's a period, after the initial shockwave of the blast has passed, where the silence is the loudest thing in the world. This is the time you feel truly stuck. It's not the sharp, screaming pain of the initial wound anymore. It's a dull, chronic ache, a haunting. You are defined in this moment, not by who you are, but by what was done to you. The betrayal becomes the architecture of your thoughts, the lens through which you see the world. You wake up and for a blissful half-second, you forget. Then the weight of it crashes down on you, a physical pressure in your chest. The memory isn't just a thought. It's a ghost limb, an amputation you feel with every breath. You move through your day, performing the motions of being alive, but you are a phantom in your own life. You are watching a movie of yourself going to work, eating, talking to friends, but the real you is frozen in time, stuck in the amber of that final conversation, that last text message, that deafening silence. You feel like a victim. It's a heavy, suffocating cloak, woven from shame and injustice, and you can't seem to take it off. And in this state, a dangerous idea takes root. A lie that feels like a lifeline. You start to believe that your healing is contingent upon them, that your future is a hostage held in their hands. You find yourself waiting for an apology that you know, logically, will never come, but your heart still listens for it. Waiting for them to face some visible public consequence, some karmic retribution you can witness, as if seeing their pain will somehow cancel out your own. You are waiting for an external event to come along and grant you permission to finally move on with your own life. You tell yourself, if they would just admit what they did, I could be free. You whisper to yourself in the dark, if they could just show 1 ounce of remorse, the story would feel complete. You are waiting for the story to end, not realizing that you have handed the pen to the one person who has no interest in writing you a happy ending. You are giving them the power not only over your past, but over your present and your future as well. This is the most subtle and brutal prison of all. Not the one they put you in, but the one you build for yourself. While waiting for them to provide the key, it is precisely at this point of maximum despair that the Stoics offer not a key, but a sledgehammer. They present a principle so radical, so empowering, it can shatter the very foundations of that prison. You have likely heard the words before, but you have not yet let them detonate in your soul. Marcus Aurelius, writing not from a comfortable study but from a windswept tent on the battlefields of Germania, surrounded by death and deceit, looked an obstacle in the eye and said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Read that again. What stands in the way becomes the way. He was not offering a clever platitude. He was describing a fundamental law of spiritual physics. He saw the human mind not as a fragile object that must be protected from the harshness of the world, but as a great and roaring fire. He wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. A small fire, a weak mind, a fragile spirit is extinguished by the first log thrown upon it. But a great fire, a mind trained in stoic resilience, it consumes the obstacle. The log that was meant to smother, it becomes the very fuel that makes it burn higher, hotter, and with more terrifying intensity. The challenge doesn't defeat the fire. It feeds the fire, the pain they inflicted upon you, the betrayal that you believe has broken you. This is the log that has been thrown into your fire. And you have a choice. You can allow it to extinguish your flame, leaving you cold and in ashes. Or you can decide right now that you are a blazing fire. You can decide that this obstacle, this very thing that you believe is ruining your life, is the single greatest source of fuel you have ever been given. The betrayal was not a roadblock on your path. It is the path. The cruelty was not an injury that weakened you. It was a training regimen designed to forge you. The universe did not send you this experience to destroy you. It sent it to you to see what you were made of. Seneca, another Stoic giant, said that a man is not unhappy if he is not broken by his misfortunes. He compared a virtuous man to a diamond. Just as no amount of force can shatter a diamond, no amount of suffering can break a soul committed to its own virtue. The suffering simply reveals its unbreakable nature. This pain is not a punishment. It is a test of your brilliance. It is a challenge to become the diamond. To truly understand this, we must use a metaphor. Your life, your spirit, before this event, was a forest. And perhaps it was a beautiful forest, but it was overgrown. It was filled with dead undergrowth you didn't even know was there. The dead wood of your need for external validation. The dry rot of your weak boundaries. The tangled vines of codependency. The naive belief that all people have good hearts. It was a forest vulnerable to the first spark, and then the spark came. The betrayal was the controlled burn. It felt like a wildfire. A destructive, chaotic, all-consuming force that swept through your world and turned everything you knew to black smoking ash. It was an annihilation. The tall trees of your trust, which you thought could touch the sky, were burned to blackened stilts. The soft, mossy ground of your security was scorched into a hard, barren crust. Everything beautiful, everything you cherished, seemed to be gone forever, and for a long while you sit in that blackened, silent landscape. The air stinks of smoke and loss. You believe with every fiber of your being that nothing will ever grow here again. This is the period of feeling stuck. This is the desolate waiting. But then, something miraculous happens. The smoke begins to clear. The winds of time begin to blow away the lightest ash. the rains of your own grief, the tears you finally allow yourself to shed, begin to soften the hard ground. And you look closer. You get on your hands and knees, and you look at what the fire left behind. You realize the fire did not just destroy. It cleansed, it purified. It burned away all the dead things, all the things that were making your forest weak and vulnerable. It incinerated the illusions. It purged the neediness. The fire, in its terrible wisdom, took from you everything that was not truly yours, everything that was not essential, everything that was not fireproof. And the ash. You realize the ash is not a sign of death. It is the most potent fertilizer known to nature. It is the rich, dark, nutrient-dense soil from which new life springs. The ash of your shattered illusions becomes the foundation for profound wisdom. The ash of your broken heart becomes the fertile ground for true, unshakable self-love. In that perfect, silent, ash-rich soil, something new begins to grow. It is not the same forest that was there before. It cannot be. It is something born of fire, something stronger, something more magnificent. The new trees that emerge are not the flimsy pines of your past. They are the ironwood of self-respect. The sequoias of resilience, with bark so thick it invites the flame. The new root system is not shallow. It is the deep, tangled network of self-reliance, gripping the bedrock of your own discovered values. The emotional payoff of this realization is the ultimate form of liberation. It is a feeling that transcends forgiveness because there is no longer anything to forgive. It approaches a kind of sacred, awe-filled gratitude. You can finally look back at the fire and at the person who held the match, not with bitterness or anger, but with a quiet, steely, and shocking understanding. It was necessary. I would not be this strong. I would not be this wise. I would not be this self-reliant. I would not be this deeply and truly at peace with who I am if I had not been burned to the ground first. And now, the final act. The power move that requires no movement at all. Your unapologetic, magnificent flourishing. You do not transform at them. You do not rebuild your forest so they can see it. You do not post your new life online as a form of revenge. That is the way of the small fire. That is the way of the gilded cage. No, you do it for the sheer, silent, profound joy of living. You build this new fire-born forest for yourself. You cultivate your inner world because it is the only world that truly matters. But they will see it. In our interconnected world, it is an absolute certainty. They will hear about it from a friend. They will stumble across a picture. They will drive by the metaphorical edge of your life one day, and they will look into your forest, and what they will see will confuse them. It will haunt them. They will not see the vengeful, broken person they expected to see. They will not see the smoldering ruins they left behind. They will see a vibrant, thriving, towering ecosystem of a human being. They will see a peace in your eyes that they cannot comprehend, because it is a peace that has been earned in the very flames they started. They will see a strength in your posture that mystifies them, because it is a strength forged in a fire they ran away from. And in that moment, the karmic circle is complete. Not because they are miserable, their misery is their own business, inside their own cage. The circle is complete because the very act they intended for your destruction became the source of your greatest creation. Their malice was the catalyst for your masterpiece. Their poison was the ingredient for your antidote. Their action, their betrayal, their entire role in your story is reduced from that of a main character to that of a minor plot device in your heroic origin story. They thought they were writing your ending. Instead, they unknowingly wrote the first sentence of your greatest chapter. They tried to burn you down, and in doing so, they only proved that you are, and always were, the fire. In the beginning, the desire for justice felt like a fire in your veins. A primal need. You wanted them to hurt. You wanted them to understand. You wanted them to look back one day, consumed by a regret so profound it brought them to their knees. You closed your eyes and you could picture it, that moment of dawning horror on their face. And it felt for a moment like that would be the thing to finally set you free. But look at where you are now. Just look, take a breath and look back at the path you have walked. Not their path, but yours. You have walked through the fire of your own emotions and you have emerged. Not burned, but cleansed. You learned to see their life not as a party you weren't invited to, but as a gilded cage you were lucky to escape. You discovered that their character was their own life sentence, a prison from which there is no parole. You stopped composing the perfect message and learned the immense power of your own silence. You took back your words, your energy, your focus, and you allowed your absence to become a mirror in which they could only see themselves. You let go of the frantic need to defend your truth, trusting that a lie, like a house of cards, cannot stand the test of time. You watched from a distance as reality itself began to pull at the rotten threads of their narrative, not with malice, but with a calm, patient certainty. And most importantly, you stood in the ashes of the life you thought you wanted, and you did the hardest thing of all. You began to build. You took the bricks they threw at you, and you used them to lay the foundation of a new life. You took the fire they started, and you used it as fuel. You took the obstacle, and you made it the way. The scales have been balanced. Not by some external, cosmic force dropping a punishment from the sky, but by your own internal alchemy. You did it. You balanced them yourself by transforming your pain into power, by turning your wounds into wisdom. Seneca's words, which perhaps once felt like a hollow consolation, now ring with the clarity of a bronze bell. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. It is no longer a goal. It is a fact. You are unlike them. You did not return cruelty with cruelty. You did not answer deceit with deceit. You answered injustice with integrity. You answered chaos with a stillness so profound it could bend steel. You answered their noise with a silence so resonant it became your anthem. The ultimate justice, the final satisfying act of karma, is not their downfall. It is the quiet, unshakable peace you feel in your own soul. It is the realization, dawning on you right now, that you no longer look over your shoulder to see if they are watching. You no longer hope for their failure or their success. Their fate, their story, their cage, it is no longer your concern. Concern is your path, your peace, your growth, your forest. The best revenge is the moment you realize you no longer seek any. You are not waiting for an apology. You are not waiting for regret. You are not waiting for anything from them, ever again. Because you have finally given yourself everything you were once hoping they would give you. Validation, security, and a future. Their chapter is over. It was a short, messy chapter that taught you everything you needed to know to write the masterpiece. That is the rest of your life. They can't hurt you anymore. Not because they've changed, but because you have. You have become a fortress. You have become silent. You have become the fire that turns everything into fuel. You are free. Watch this video next.